Resident Evil Code Veronica is fourth main game in the Resident Evil series, continuing Claire Redfield's story after the events of Resident Evil 2. In this video we will walk through her adventures. So let's get started. 3 months have passed since the events of Resident Evil 2. Umbrella helicopters fly toward a military base located on the remote Rockford Island. Claire is in one of them. She learned that her brother Chris had been in France observing Umbrella's branch there. She followed him, infiltrated the corporation's Paris facility, but ran into security. Despite her acquired skills, Claire couldn't resist for long, and she was captured. The date is now September 17, 1998, and Claire wakes up in the prison cell from this. The guard of the cell block, Rodrigo Juan Raval, releases Claire, informing her that unknown fighters have attacked the island, and this place is done for. The gameplay begins, which has undergone some changes, particularly with fully 3D graphics that allow the camera to move, though it is still fixed. As you can see, the attack of the island has caused a T-virus outbreak on the local base, leading to mass infections. Even the dead have risen from their graves and surrounded Claire. Our task now is to escape. Our protagonist encounters a young prisoner named Steve Burnside, who almost killed her, thinking she was a zombie. After their introduction, Steve says he heard there is an airport nearby, from where he could leave the island. But he decides to go alone, as he prefers to act independently. From a prisoner's diary, we learn that other prisoners were taken to a certain building, where experiments were put on them, and none returned from there. One of them was Bob, the attendant of the prison's boss, Alfred Ashford. This boss imprisoned Bob for a minor mistake and eventually sent him to that same building. Claire encounters Steve again, who has found information about Chris Redfield.
Well, it seems your brother is under surveillance by Umbrella.
What?
She sends an email to Leon, asking him to inform Chris where she is, but Steve says it's pointless, since no one can reach this place. From the secretary's diary, we learn that the boss trusts no one, even him, and he is still forbidden access to Alfred's private residence. Additionally, Alfred has a twin sister named Alexia, known as her exceptional beauty. It's better not to ask about her, as it might endanger your life. In the palace, Claire finds a very strange tape of Alfred and Alexia, but it's unclear what's happening. Suddenly, Claire hears Steve screaming for help and she lets him in. He was just showing off his newly found pistols and left again. Then Alfred Ashford tries to shoot Claire, accusing her of bringing the attackers to his base. We learn that his grandfather was one of the original founders of Umbrella. Their dialogue ends in it.
Have it your way then. You're just a rat in a cage anyway. I'll be sure to keep you entertained before I dispose of you.
Oh dear, is he really feminine? Afterward, Claire finds a submarine and reaches the underwater area. From there she gets in the training facility and encounters a giant worm. While running around, Claire falls into a trap set by Alfred, who prepared a special playground for her to continue entertaining him.
I so want to enjoy this.
Here is a new type of zombie, with one very long arm that grabs Claire. But suddenly, Steve appears and saves her, even kicking the creature. After that, suddenly Alfred lowers them down.
Now that your knight has made his appearance, he can join you in your descent into death.
Then they fall down again. Claire gets her leg trapped, and Steve seems to recognize the zombie as he doesn't want to shoot it. His father used to work for Umbrella, tried to steal information to sell to the highest bidder, but he was caught, and Steve's mother was killed. They were sent here. After this touching moment, we leave Steve alone to process his feelings. In the palace, we find the letter from the butler addressed to the new master. Alfred, along with some history. The first family master of the Ashfords was a woman named Veronica, whose intellect and beauty were legendary. The sixth family master was Alfred's grandfather, Sir Edward, during whose time the family experienced its golden age. Thanks to him, the large chemical enterprise Umbrella Inc. was founded. But his son, Alfred's father, Alexander, gradually began ruining everything. So the butler holds out high hopes on Alfred. On the computer we see the full version of the strange video. They were really weird. On the way to the private residence, Claire hears... That's the Alexia. Indeed. Claire eavesdrops on her conversation with her brother. They want to restore the Ashford family's glory and make Alexia the family master. In the palace we find the same report from Hank aka Mr. Death from the Resident Evil 3. He arrived with a large-scale BOB capsule, which is currently being stored in the freezer. It contains the Tyrant. Claire returns to the prison, gives Rodrigo medicine and gets a lockpick from him. In the private residence we find a confession letter where Alfred writes about how much he loves his sister and he wants to restore the family's greatness just for her. She is his reason for living. He seems obsessed with her, but hasn't crossed any forbidden lines, at least not yet. Claire then meets Alexia in person, who has a shotgun in her hands, but Steve intervenes again, exchanging shots with Alexia, who quickly flees. They pursue her, but after the brief confrontation with her brother, our heroes realize that Alfred has a split personality, sometimes dressing as Alexia and even changing his voice. What a plot twist.
Come on, we gotta get to that airport.
And that's exactly the right choice, because there are survivors who have already done so. Our heroes reach the airport and board the plane, but they can't take off, so Claire sets off on a long quest. While she's busy with that, Alfred or Alexia, speaking with a female voice, releases the contents of the capsule from Hank's report, but that doesn't help. Claire and Steve successfully leave the island while having a pleasant conversation. Meanwhile, this hermaphrodite gets into a fighter jet, determined not to let the pair escape. The Tyrant also successfully catches up to them, but promptly falls out of the plane. Suddenly, Alfred takes control of the plane, and our heroes can do nothing about that. Oh, after that we've got some romance here. But nope, Claire woke up. They figured out they've arrived in Antarctica, and there are other planes there too. After landing, they split up. Claire finds a letter from the butler, Scott Harmon. We learn that Alfred's father disappeared 15 years ago, and then a tragic accident during the experiment took his sister's life, forcing him to become the master of the family at a very young age. Now we understand why he's so strange. After reading the letter, Claire encounters Nosferatu, who emits these creepy sounds. Steve says there is an Australian observation base about 7 miles away from here, which becomes their goal, so they decide to reach it using a digging vehicle, but... So they split up to shut off the toxic gas. Claire successfully does it, and suddenly Alfred appears. Then out of nowhere Steve shows up, and Alfred falls down. For some reason this Frankenstein breaks free and goes. Meanwhile Steve drills through a wall, and they make their way to the helipad. But Nosferatu catches up to them, and Claire has to knock him down while Steve hangs on. Then they find a snowmobile and head for the Australian base. Meanwhile, Alfred survives and dies after seeing Alexia finally woke up. Our heroes are stopped by Alexia. This is her part of body or hand. Then we see her naked with her dead brother. Oh my god. Meanwhile, Chris Redfield arrives on the island, because Leon managed to receive Claire's message. Now we play as Chris, who finds Rodrigo, who tells him that Claire escaped the island and then dies from a giant worm. Chris stumbles upon a mini concert by Alexia, and meanwhile Albert Wesker sees them both. Now we meet Wesker in person and learn that he attacked the island to capture Alexia. We also find out he survived thanks to a virus that gave him superhuman strength and speed. He's also working for a new organization. Wesker says that Claire and Alexia are in Antarctica. After that, Wesker disappears. Chris finds a jet and heads for Claire. Upon arriving in Antarctica, from Alfred's, Alexia's and their father Alexander's diaries, we learn the whole story. Alexander's father, Edward, and another nobleman Spencer discovered a mother virus. They studied it for military purposes. They called it the T-virus. To camouflage their research, they created Umbrella Chemical Inc. Alexander, his son, majored in biogenetics and was involved in a top-secret project, supporting his father's research. However, his father died in the middle of the project. Alexander disgraced the Ashworth's name with his failure, and if nothing was done, Spencer would take over Umbrella. He created his children using the progenitor virus and Veronica's genome, an ancestor of the Ashworth family. Alexia and Alfred didn't forgive their father for this, and experimented on him, turning him into a monster Nosferatu. That meant a failure of the experiment and locked him up in the base. Later, Alexia, working for Umbrella, developed the T-Veronica virus, injected it into herself, and stayed in coma for 15 years, the incubation period of the virus. Chris finally finds Claire. She is poisoned and asks him to find Steve. Well, the older brother will take care of everything. She starts feeling better. Alexia meets them and leaves. But before they can follow her, this thing separates them. Claire finds Steve, but Alexia had already injected him with the virus, because she plans to conduct the same experiment on him, as she did with her father. Steve transforms into a Hulk-like creature, but when this part of Alexia grabs Claire, Steve manages to overcome the virus, saves Claire, and returns to normal. He finds the courage to confess his love to her before passing away. Meanwhile, Wesker tells Alexia that he wants a sample of the T-Veronica virus from her body. She laughs, transforms, and gives Wesker a beating several times. He manages to escape, but Chris isn't so lucky. So Chris is forced to temporarily kick her ass. Afterward, he finds Claire crying over Steve. Chris can't open the door, so Claire tells him about the self-destruct system, which will unlock all doors so they can evacuate. Chris activates the system, and they try to escape, but Alexia is right there. While she hesitates or something, they manage to unlock a powerful weapon. Chris distracts Alexia so Claire can escape. In the end, he finishes off the final boss, evacuates, and they fly away. In the plane, Chris says it's not over yet, and that they are heading to destroy Umbrella right now, and then boom! And with that, another Umbrella base is destroyed. Let's see what the next part of series brings us. See you in the next video.